because only it was a habit after all, and people they forgot, they became accustomed to its absence. They returned and found just the facade. It had been eaten from the inside. Biju walks to the judge's house on a rainy night, dressed only in an old woman's nightgown that Gorkha National Liberation Friend's voice gave him. I quote from the text, this is very emotional. At the gate, peeping through the black lace wrought iron between the mossy cannonballs, was the figure in a nightgown. Pitaji, he said, the figure all ruffles the colors. Kanchanjunga appeared above the parting clouds as it did only very early in the morning during this session. Biju whispered the cook. Bijur, he yelled, demented. Sai looked out. Sai looked out and saw two figures leaping to each other as the gate swung open. The five peaks of Kanchanjunga turned golden with the kind of luminous light that made you feel. If briefly the truth was apparent, all you needed to do was to reach out and capture it. The embrace of the Father and the Son is the culmination of Biju's journey, which leads to a transformation in his relationship with his national identity. His decision to return to India, his father, contributes to his emergence as a new man because it is a political choice motivated by Biju's decision to move against the forces of history, pushing him away from his father and home. This is where the truth in Biju's embrace of his poor father country lies, voiced by the narrator and considered as bright and spectacular as the golden sunlight illuminating the peaks of Mount Kanchanjunga comes from. It signals the replacement of his wish to run away from the city place, as Mr. Kakkar calls India, with a political understanding of global hierarchies that render some places more city than the others. It is through this understanding that Biju recovers from the feeling of hatred towards himself. Similarly, disadvantaged peoples and nations. The final scene of the novel, therefore, does not stage a glorification of national belongings per se. On the contrary, the narrator narrator's emphasis on the brief moment of this truth, presented as the light hitting the peaks of mountain as well as overall humorous mood emerging out of the way in which Biju is dressed seem to be seem to be strategies designed to undercut any feeling of nationalism the scene might present. So this is the last concluding line that I am going to share with you. Biju, in his written, we find that Biju gains mobility, nobility across national borders in terms of the scopes of his political consciousness, which is facilitated by the imposition of limits on his mobility across borders of the first world. What is more remarkable in this final scene of reunion between the father and the son is Desai's attempt to problematize The emphasis on masculinity, which is there in finance narratives in relation to the sexuality, in fact, and the lack of recognition of the colonized man of color. So this is all I wanted to say. He's written from New York to Kalimpong is very much symbolical. It signifies the it signifies that it signifies the value and the meaning of land and its association with our self actually. So the self, in the formulation of the self or in the formulation of consciousness, always the print of the root is there. And all these ideas, all the concept that we formulate in our life are always guided by the presence of the root that is very much closely related with the idea of the self. So thank you very much. This is what I wanted to say in this lecture, and uh, you can have your questions when we meet in the online class. Thank you very much. Take care of you.